Over the years, Washington, D.C. has hosted thousands of protests of all kinds as citizens have flocked to their nation's capital to tell Congress and the President what they should and shouldn't do. But starting in late 1978, D.C. played host to a new kind of protest, one that left its mark literally on the city in many ways.
It was in November of 1977. I heard on the radio one morning about a farm meeting at Texas Stadium, and so a friend of mine that was a local farmer too, we decided to go hear what they had to say.
Around the country, farmers were facing rising costs and falling prices as unfair regulations allowed foreign countries to dump their excess agricultural products into U.S. markets. Rising numbers of bankruptcies and foreclosures meant many farmers were losing their land and livelihood, with many more on the verge of economic collapse.
Came up here and lobbied Congress and hoped to pass some changes in farm policy so family farmers could survive and make a living on their farms. The Senate passed the legislation, the House did not, and so the decision was made, if they didn't listen to us coming up as individuals, maybe we'll get their attention if we all drive our tractors back to Washington, which is what we did in 1979.
David Center, a family farmer from Texas, took up the call to organize. A local leader in the American agriculture movement, Center became one of the national organizers of a new kind of protest. Farmers knew if they had to stand together if they were going to demand attention for their concerns, and so they decided to plan a Tractorcade protest, a convoy of tractors from towns and counties all over the country that slowly made the trip to Washington, D.C.'s National Mall.
We could go 100 miles a day. That's as fast as the tractors would travel. So 100 miles a day, yep. And so when we'd stop, the local farmers would have a chili supper, or they'd have soup, or they'd have sandwiches, or a fish fry. So there'd be a big meal, and all the local farmers would come out and meet all of us on the trip. And then the farmers that were going with us would join with us, and the next morning we'd gone down the road another 100 miles with the new farmers along on the trip with us. And so every night we met new farmers, and people joined us all the way to D.C. It was this time of the year, and it was very cold. While we was here, we actually had 2 foot of snow while the farmers were here on their tractors. And we actually took tractors and pulled fire trucks around. We picked doctors up and nurses and took them to hospitals. And so we spent a lot of time helping the city dig out while we were here. But it was a huge logistical problem. Tractors were parked on the mall. The mall was full all the way from the Capitol to the Washington Monument. Many of the farmers slept in campers on the mall. Our group from my county, we had a few campers, and we rotated. We rented a hotel room, walking distance from Capitol Hill. It was the Capitol Skyline Inn.
At its largest, the protest was approximately 60,000 strong. The farmers used their time in D.C. to lobby Congress, rally, and protest. They blocked traffic and disrupted day-to-day life in Washington, but also made personal connections with district residents.
It was interesting here on Sundays. The citizens here in the area would come by the mall and pick up farmers and take them home for a home-cooked meal. And so I went out to where an elevator repairman lived in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, and I think there was 3 other farmers. We went out there and met the family, and we took kids tractor rides on the mall every Sunday afternoon. And so the DC residents came to the mall and met the farmers, and it was like a big campground. But we lived there for 3 months.
As spring neared, many farmers needed to head back home to start planting. Most left in early March, with the last tractor leaving in June of 1979. So what did the Tractorcade protest of 1979 accomplish? Did Congress listen to the farmers and take action to save family farms? Well, not immediately, but it did help them organize for continued action in the years of crisis that would come for American agriculture in the 1980s.
We had a terrible farm crisis. There were record numbers of farm suicides, farmers being foreclosed on, losing their farms. And so we started trying to stop auction sales. We started demanding that Congress deal with the farm crisis, and eventually helped get legislation passed that did stop farm foreclosures. But we lost a big percentage of farmers. It was a very serious situation. And it just went to prove that what we were saying when we brought our tractors up here, if Congress had listened and would have followed through, they would have prevented the farm crisis of the mid-'80s, which devastated rural America.
Following the Tractorcade, farmers continued organizing in important ways. One was the formation of the North American Farm Alliance. The alliance brought together groups from around the country to create a unified response to the 80s farm crisis. In 1983, my great-grandfather, Merle Hansen, became the founding president and worked together with David Center and other leaders to fight for fair farm prices and against foreclosures.
I was one of 6 that organized the state of Texas, and then later I became the first employee and I opened the Washington, D.C. office in 1980 for American Agriculture Movement here. So I kind of came from being an original organizer to helping build a national organization.
Another outgrowth of this protest was Farm Aid. The first Farm Aid concert was organized in 1985 by Willie Nelson and other musicians to raise money to keep family farmers on the land. They have since raised over $50 million and worked to promote fair farm policies. Standing up for your community, standing against unfair government actions is as important now as it has ever been. The 1979 Tractorcade showed one way activists can demand attention by protesting and calling for change, even if it's slow in coming. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice."